Guessing you're quite content this morning. How significant is this result for you?
Well, good morning, Kay. It's hugely significant. This is the largest majority ever overturned in a by-election in British history. So it's a huge victory for the Liberal Democrats. We're very excited, but it's a big issue for our country. I think the people of Tiverton and Honiton have spoken for the British people, and I think they've said loud and clear that Boris Johnson must go. When we were talking to people on the doorsteps, they do see him as a lying lawbreaker, and they see him as someone who doesn't have a plan for our country, that's suffering under the chaos and the cost of living crisis, with an NHS that isn't getting properly supported. So Liberal Democrats put our positive message to people. They backed us in their droves. And I think they want me to come onto your programme and say to the government, Boris Johnson must go.
Just to clarify, you said it was the largest by-election overturned result majority in living history. That's not right, is it?
No, the biggest majority that's ever been overturned. The largest majority that's ever been overturned.
No,
right,
against the Tories, not completely.
My figures are what I've just given you, Kay. It's a huge victory. We can quibble about the size if you like, but it's absolutely massive.
No, I'm just clarifying for you. Labour's majority was higher at Glasgow, Govan, Brent East, Glasgow, Hamilton in 1967, Ashfield in 1977. So we'll give it to you that it's the largest Tory majority that's ever been overturned in a by-election, but certainly not the largest ever majority. Okay. Nevertheless, we are where we are. How surprised are you?
Well, I was a bit surprised. On the doorstep, it did feel very good for us. We were being told by lifelong Conservatives that they thought Boris Johnson was not a decent man, that he was letting down our country. And I listened to Alistair Campbell, your previous interviewee, and I have to say some of what we were hearing on the doorstep was exactly what Mr. Campbell was saying. People have lost trust in Boris Johnson. They see him as dishonest, and they see him as someone who's incompetent, who is unable to come up with the policies that the country needs. I mean, there are millions of people, millions of families, millions of pensioners who are really struggling out there. They're having real problems paying for their food bills, problems they can't even afford to fill up their car with petrol. This is a crisis for many people. And people were angry on the doorsteps, and I share that anger when we have a government that is so incompetent. And if Conservative MPs don't wake up, I think at the next election, the voters will send them packing.
By-election voting is generally protest voting, though, isn't it? It's not always, we don't always see it when it comes to a general election. If we did, you'd have a significantly bigger number of seats in the House of Commons than you do at the moment.
Well, over the last year, Kay, Liberal Democrats beat the Conservatives in True Blue Buckinghamshire in the Cheshire and Amersham by-election about a year ago. Then 6 months later in North Shropshire, a seat the Tories had held for 200 years, the Liberal Democrats beat the Conservatives. Then we had an amazing set of local elections where we were the clear winner, where we took councils off the Conservatives in Somerset, in Cumbria. We beat them in Wimbledon, in Woking, across the country. And then here today in East Devon, we've beaten the Conservatives. This isn't a flash in the pan. This is a series of victories for the Liberal Democrats against the Conservatives. And the last time this happened was in the mid-1990s. And what happened at the subsequent election? The Conservatives lost and were defeated and were out of power for a long time. I think the Liberal Democrats are leading the way, with a positive agenda of a tax cut to help people struggling, the VAT cut, which will reduce inflation, help people with their food bills. That sort of positive agenda is part of showing that there's an alternative to the Conservatives. We could be governed far better. And I think this series of by-election victories by the Liberal Democrats may well foretell and come ahead of a Tory loss at the next election, where Boris Johnson does go and is left and the Tories are defeated.
Sorry, I interrupted you there, Sir Ed, but even with these two massive results of late, which no one can take away from you, it still only takes you to 13 MPs, doesn't it? There's very little you can do within the chamber of the House of Commons to make any difference to this Prime Minister.
Well, first of all, Kay, let me correct you on your figures. It's 14 Liberal Democrat MPs.
Congratulations,
now.
well done.
We're quibbling with each other. But in terms of your point, listen, you're right. The Conservative MPs hold the future of the Prime Minister in their hand. And the question is, are Conservative MPs going to listen to the people of Tiverton and Honiton? Are they going to listen to the people of North Shropshire? Are they going to listen to the people of Cheshire and Amersham? All of whom told us that Boris Johnson should go. And if Conservative MPs don't get the message, they have the power to dispatch this Prime Minister. If they don't do that, I think the voters will reap their revenge. It's been really clear that voters now think the Conservative Party is tainted by Boris Johnson, and the fact that Conservative MPs won't do the decent thing, won't listen to people, means they will pay the price of the next election.
You keep being very kind in your words about the Labour Party. Are we going to see you guys getting together?
No. Listen, I keep getting asked this. There's no deal, there's no pact, and hypothetical questions are not for today. You know, the reality is we need a government that is going to put the interests of the British people first. There are millions of pensioners and families who are really struggling out there. We need a coherent alternative plan. Liberal Democrats are putting one forward with our VAT tax cut, with our proposals to help people here in Devon with extending the rural fuel duty relief scheme. We've got these practical policies which will really help people, and I think we need a political debate at the next election and a government that's going to dispatch these awful Conservatives and actually tackle people's problems.